Yo, welcome back to Good Game Reviews. Here to do another game prediction. And we have the San Francisco 49ers coming to face the New England Patriots. Man, I've been waiting all week for this matchup. Hoping that the New England Patriots can get a bounce back, being biased here. Hopefully they can get a bounce back, week coming in. But let's go ahead and talk about these two teams. I want to start off with the visiting team, the San Francisco 49ers, as far as the injury report goes. And then I'm going to move on to the Patriots. So, first off, we got Quan Alexander. He's a linebacker for the 49ers. He's going to be out this game with an ankle injury. So is Raheem Mozart. Jaquiski Tart, he's going to be out with a groin injury. Jimmy Ward, he's going to be out with a quad injury. Trent Williams, tackle, he's going to be questionable with an ankle injury. So I'm not sure on his status. But most likely it seems like he might be good to go. But, we only know once that final inactive list comes out. And that's pretty much going to come out an hour and a half before the game starts. So we'll see. Jeff Wilson, running back, he's also questionable with a calf injury. He's a running back. Now, as far as what he will be able to do, as far as like his production on the field coming into the game, not really sure. Obviously McKinnon's going to get the starts, but Wilson, we'll have to see what the inactive list says for him. As far as the Patriots side, we have Derek Rivers. He is questionable with a back injury. Now, the back injury occurred around Thursday, I want to say, either Thursday or Friday. But yeah, he popped up on the injury report, and we'll have to see what happens with him. It came in a little later, so obviously, it's kind of game time decision as far as Derek Rivers, especially with him like just coming back from the the COVID-19 reserve list. So we have to see what they say about him. He might be a game time decision. I know they brought up a defensive end on the from the Patriots practice squad. I'm blanking on his name right now, excuse me, but they brought up a defensive end from the practice squad. So it's looking like we might have to be without Rivers again for this week, but just in case, we'll see. We just got to see. As far as Adam Butler, he's next on there. He's questionable with an elbow injury. We saw him go down in that Broncos game. We thought it was possibly the shoulder injury that he was already dealing with, and everybody kind of held their breaths, waiting to see what the results was. He didn't come back for a period of time, but he ended up returning for a little while during the game to play about 2 snaps, and then he was like back off. So we were kind of concerned about his health. He's questionable, so we just have to see what he does. Obviously they're bringing back I want to say, excuse me, y'all. It's a long night. Nick Thurman, excuse me. Yes, Nick Thurman. They're bringing Nick Thurman up once again from the practice squad. They're activating him again to come in this game. So we'll see what that spells for Adam Butler. Adam Butler could possibly play. We don't know. Carl Davis also out. He's a new acquisition, but he's out with a concussion. Julian Edelman's questionable with a knee. As of always, because he's just been on the injury report since day one. Shaq Mason, he is questionable. He just came off the COVID-19 reserve list, but he is healthy. And it's looking like he might be able to start in this game. Kyle Duggar, also questionable with the ankle. We'll see what happens with him, but that's pretty much it from, as far as injuries go. Now, let me go ahead and get into the game, get into which side I think has the better advantage. Now, with the quarterback side, it was kind of tough trying to see which side had the advantage as far as quarterbacks. You got Jimmy Garoppolo, who hasn't played a full season. He's been dealing with some injuries. You have Cam Newton on the other side, who hasn't necessarily been dealing with any like big injuries or anything like that. It's just he went on the COVID-19 list and had to sit out that Week 4 matchup, and I mean that was basically the only time he was absent from the game. But it took some time before we got to see him back on the field. We didn't even get to see them play for a whole 2 weeks until the Denver game. So he's been dealing with that, but he seems to be good. Besides maybe a possible hand thing, it wasn't mentioned, but it's still like kind of looming in the air. So, but as far as what they've been able to do, Cam Newton hasn't had the best of starts. He can't. We kind of came to the season thinking that we have Cam Newton, he's going to solve pretty much all of our problems, at least our quarterback problem. And it did appear that way at the beginning, but it's kind of gotten shaky over the last 2 games that he's played. Hasn't really been the best. He didn't have such a good game during that Raiders game. Even though they did get the dub, he did enough, but wasn't really his best game. And then you look at this Broncos game, and it definitely wasn't his best game at all. So he's had pretty much a shaky. He's kind of in a shaky position right now. But completion percentage like 68.1, threw for 871 yards. He's only thrown for 2 touchdowns. He has 4 interceptions. Now he does have 4 rushing touchdowns, but you're kind of worried about those interceptions. He has a passer rating of 81.5. So I mean, he's got room to improve, and I know he's the whole practice situation. We've heard it to death at this point, so we still got to see what's up with that. But I still have hope for him. I still have hope. I think he's good, and I feel like this could be a bounce back week for him. And I'll explain why a little bit later. But let's move over to Jimmy Garoppolo. 63.6 for as far as his completion percentage goes. Only 735 yards. Like I said, he's missed some games, so he hasn't had an opportunity to actually be out there on the field. But besides that, he has 7 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. Now, I mean, yeah, that's good and all. But I mean, we have to see as far as what he's looking like, going forth, especially in this game. He still seems to be dealing with a little bit of that ankle issue, but obviously he wasn't on the injury report, so it seems good. He seems like he's kind of coming back from that, and he's throwing nicely. He threw nicely in the last game, so we'll see as far as Jimmy Garoppolo goes. He has a nice pass rating so far, 101. So I mean, he's doing something right now, at least in this present moment. But I had decided to go ahead and give the QB advantage to New England, only because I feel that Cam Newton could, provide a little bit more in terms of just, being an all-out playmaker. I feel that if things aren't open enough for Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't know where he's gonna go as far as the game plan. They don't have their best rusher right now, so I'm trying to see what exactly could Jimmy Garoppolo do as far as if the passing attack doesn't work. What else could he possibly fall back on? And I kind of drawing a blank really, but I know Cam Newton, like if he's not able to get the passing game going, and that has been a struggle, he will still be able to get something done with his legs. And we seen that he can easily just break off for a 30-something yard run, if he has to. So we always know he has that other element in his back pocket. And I just think he has the potential to have a better game in this matchup. As far as the running game goes, I looked at the running back depth chart for both of these teams. And San Fran is going through a kind of an unfortunate time right now. They don't have Mostert, to run that ball for him. He's pretty much their best guy, and he's pretty much going to be out. He's on injury reserve, so they got to, pretty much rely on McKinnon to get this running game started. And he's done. I mean, he's done nice. He has 3 touchdowns. He's averaging 5.1 on the ground. He has 211 yards. I'm just, I just want to see if this running attack, if they can, find a way to breathe some life into this, at least in McKinnon's, side. I know they're going to find a way to run the ball because that's just the team that 49ers is, but I want to see how well McKinnon does. I haven't really seen too much of McKinnon with my own eyes. So so when this game starts, I'll be able to see. But right now, I mean, it's basically looking like McKinnon or bust. There's not really a lot that they can really fall back on as far as that running game. On the contrast, you got the Patriots who, besides last game, that Broncos game, they've been running it very nicely. I think before then they had the number one running attack. Damian Harris, 119 yards, averaging 5.2 on the ground. Rex Burkhead, I know he is averaging nicely. 4.1, has 2 touchdowns, 284 yards. You have JJ Taylor. You got James White, who wasn't at practice, but it wasn't an injury, type of thing. It was kind of like not related to that. But you see the depth that they have in that running back room. Even with Sony Michel out, they still have, multiple guys that can tote the rock. So I kind of fell back on the Patriots side of that as far as the running back room. And I decided to give them the advantage just because of the depth, just because they have more guys to spread the ball to as far as the running back room goes. Now, as far as wide receiver goes, I easily went to the San Francisco side. Ayuk, he's looking like a promising rookie. I wish we could have got him on my team, but I mean that's just not the way it fell. They have Deebo Samuels, who is a personal favorite from last year's draft. For me, I had him in my top 3. It was A.J. Brown, Hakeem Butler, funny enough, and Deebo Samuel. That was my top 3 when I was looking at the draft last year. So 2 of those didn't disappoint me, but yeah. But Deebo Samuel is a nice receiver, and I know they're glad to have him back on there. He's been dealing with some injuries, but it's looking like he's there, and he's healthy, and I know they're glad to have him on the field. As far as the Patriots side of the ball, really Julian Edelman is the only one actually doing anything. Only 302 yards. He's averaging 15.1 as far as when he catches the ball, but 20 receptions, 36 targets. I mean, he's just not there. It's not clicking for him. And he's even getting less play time, according to, statistics. He's getting up to, I want to say 18% or more in terms of his snap count. It's dropped by that much. That's how much it's dropped by. So, a lot of factors going on with Julian Edelman, and for him to be the best receiver right now doesn't really bode well for the Patriots as far as that wide receiver room, which is why I made a video talking about them being one of my concerns. You can go back and watch that video, the top 4 concerns for the Patriots. But I mean, it just seems like that's an area of struggle, right now. So with Julian Edelman not really producing, then you have everybody else falling behind. Just doesn't look well for that room right now. As far as the tight end goes, I already gave my advantage to them. But as far as the tight end room goes, I didn't even really want to make this too long. George Kittle, easy, 380 yards, averaging 12.7, 2 touchdowns, 95 yards per game is the big number I want y'all to pay attention to. 95 yards per game, and nobody really comes close. The next closest guy is Kendrick Bourne with 45.2. So obviously that's pretty much the guy that is going to get the most attention, at least from the Patriots defense. George Kittle, my personal opinion, I think he's the best tight end right now in the league. You know, obviously, like looking at these past few seasons, I mean, the dude's he's just an animal, man. And for them to get him in the 5th round, man, that was crazy. The fact they was able to get him in the 5th round, that was still blows my mind. But yeah, George Kittle, man, he's obviously the best tight end, possibly the best offensive weapon that's going to be on that field next week, excluding quarterbacks. I mean, he's probably going to be just the best guy out there on the field. You know, I mean, just a freak. If you look over at the Patriots side, I mean, their numbers don't even come close to what George Kittle is doing. 86 yards, 6 receptions. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, that's combined. That's the tight end room for the Patriots combined. So, easily the advantage goes to San Fran on this issue. As far as offensive line, before the recent moves, well, not necessarily even moves, but as far as like the recent, you know, influx of players who came back this week for practice, before that, I would have gave the advantage to San Fran because they have the most healthy guys. I mean, despite them missing their best center, they have the most healthy guys. We still have to watch that Trent Williams thing, but they're looking good right now. Now on the Patriots side, they were able to get back David Andrews. They were able to get back Shaq Mason. So you looking at that, they got their starting center, they got their starting right guard, they got Joe Tooney, they got Isaiah Wynn. It's possibly looking like Michael Owenu is going to be playing that right tackle. That's what people are saying, but I personally think it's going to be Justin Herron. Either way, I'm more leaning towards Justin Herron because I feel like he's better as far as like, you know, that he's a tackle. He's a more, you know, he has the techniques that you want from a tackle as far as, you know you're concerned. Michael Owenu's better inside. He's better. He's just better inside. That's my opinion. I don't really think he should play too much tackle. They might sub him out at times, but whatever it is, it should go nicely now that you got your main starters out there and they're playing nice. So yeah, I lean more towards the Patriots as far as the O-line goes. Defensive end, I decided to go with the 49ers, and that's basically, you know, purely off of production. Sure, they're missing D Ford and all, but you know, they still have, you know, some guys who are giving them production. And the Patriots, they only have Chase Winovich. Chase Winovich, he's nice, but he needs help. You know, as much as Cam Newton needs help as far as, you know, getting them more weapons, I think Chase Winovich needs more help as far as getting other guys to rush the passer. It just doesn't really seem like he has guys who, you know, who can help him out in that regard. But as far as defensive line goes, I decided to give that advantage to the Patriots, and mostly because they have their guys coming back. You know, they got Adam Butler coming back. Possibly you got Byron Cowart coming back, and you know you still got Lawrence Guy there. So I feel like, you know, they got their main guys coming. Hopefully should go nicely. You got on the other end though for San Francisco, you know, they're missing their guys. You know, there's a lot of that defense right now is missing a lot of guys. You know, most notably Nick Bosa, who, you know, he's been gone since the beginning of the season. So it's just, you know, they're dealing with a lot of things on that defensive on the defense as a whole, but you know, they're missing a lot. They're missing a lot from that interior. Nick Bosa, he's obviously a defensive end, but they're missing pieces on there. They're missing pieces at the defensive line. They're missing pieces at linebacker. They're missing pieces in the secondary. It's just a whole mess going on right now for San Fran's defense, and you know they're doing their thing to keep it together. But you know, injuries, man. I mean, what can you do? Shoot. As far as the linebacker core goes, I decided to give it to San Fran. Yeah, San Fran. Obviously, I'll give it to them. They still have Fred Warner out there, man. He's still doing his thing. He leads them in tackles actually with 50 tackles. So, he's still playing nice. Patriots, they still got to get more from their linebackers right now. We still haven't seen Uche. I thought he was going to have a chance to, play in this game and be activated, but Bill Belichick obviously thinks he probably needs another week. So we'll see if that comes to bite us back in the butt. Obviously we need him, but Bill Belichick doesn't think he's ready. So other than that, Juwan Bentley just happens to be the best linebacker that the Patriots have right now, and that's not saying much. He's not really good as far as covering. He's a north to south type of guy. So, getting at the passer, on blitz packages or find a way to bust up runs and whatnot. That's his formula. That's Juwan Bentley's formula. Not necessarily coverage, because if you're relying on Juwan Bentley to do a lot of covering, it's not going to bode well. It's not going to bode well. So I gave the advantage to San Francisco. Now we have, as far as the secondary goes, I'm going to start with the cornerbacks. And for cornerbacks, I decided to give the advantage to the Patriots. Mostly because of production, mostly because of just overall talent at that cornerback position. Patriots are loaded. San Francisco doesn't have their best guy in Sherman. Now, Verrett, he's doing nicely for them. He's doing nicely for them. He's covering nicely. He has an interception, but it's just it's just not enough. I don't think it's enough as far as that secondary goes. And J.C. Jackson, he's pretty much the best guy. But you probably can make a case for Jonathan Jones being the best cornerback out there. But those guys, they're still doing their thing. Stephon Gilmore, he's not, as top tier as he was at this point, if we're comparing it to last year, but he's still one of the best out there. So, and I'm just talking about cornerbacks in the league. So they're doing nicely. I give the advantage to them pretty much any game of the week. As far as the safety room, I also went Patriots with this, mostly because, Adrian Phillips is showing out. He's showing out. He actually leads the team in tackles, believe it or not. He also has an interception. He's doing his thing. He is a nice acquisition. I knew he was going to provide us something, but I didn't think he was just going to be such an important piece this year. I didn't know he was going to be such an important piece this year. But he's done very nicely as far as, that secondary is concerned, as far as the safeties are concerned. Unfortunately, 49ers are missing, some of their guys. Like I said, they're dealing with a lot of injuries. Tart, he's out, with the groin, issue. It's just, they're dealing with a lot of injuries as far as their secondary. And to be missing someone like him is going to be challenging for them. So if you expect the Patriots to have a good day in the air, it might be because of that. All the injuries that they're dealing with is in the secondary. They might wound up and have a Seattle-like type game because of the injuries that they have in the secondary. So just look for that. As far as more some like arbitrary type of things. Well, not even arbitrary. They matter, but not as much as, the other skill positions, in my opinion. Special teams, we know that a good special teams unit can make and break a team. Just ask the 2010 Chargers, but I decided to go ahead and give the advantage to San Fran. Besides kick returning, San Fran really has the advantage in terms of every area on special teams. And don't even get me started on kicker. Gold and Folk, no competition. As far as this last one, which, you can take it if you want, I save it for last because I just think that a lot of decisions made from this particular person or team, if you want to, kind of like that, like coaching team or whatever, I think that it can make and break a game. It can make or break a game. Last spot is coaching. Bill Belichick always says, and you're probably getting tired of me saying this, but I'll mention it as much as I can. Players win games, coaches lose them, and if it's anything that we can pull, especially from this season, we have seen some coaches drop. We are seeing some coaches drop very early, and as far as like job security goes, I think coaching could be the weakest as far as that's concerned, because a player can be bad and possibly last on the squad for a few years. A coach can have a really bad season and be gone before the season even ends. Like they can find themselves without a job before the season. They can be the head coach, and if you're doing that bad, you might be gone before the middle of the season. We've seen it happening. We're seeing it happen now, so it matters. And I gave the advantage to the Patriots on this one. Obviously, we know the Bill Belichick, Kyle Shanahan kind of matchups that they've had in the past. Kyle Shanahan's offense versus Belichick's defense. We've seen Belichick get the better of him. Whether it's, whether we want to go to the Atlanta game or whatever, like, I just think Belichick has a better, just in terms of just, closing out a game. I think Belichick is better than that. He's better in that regard than Kyle Shanahan is. Kyle Shanahan, you can't really, I don't really trust Kyle Shanahan as far as closing out a game. Overall, as a coach, Kyle Shanahan is great, but as far as closing out a game, I can't trust Kyle Shanahan because he can give it up as easy as anybody. So that's just how I think. But if we want to total up everything, Patriots, they kind of slip out of this, with a few more advantages. Now, hopefully with the return of core players on both the offense and defense, and barring injury or whatever, or any freaky, accidents that might happen, knock on wood, I feel that the Patriots can come out of this game with a victory. It's definitely going to be close, don't get me wrong, but I feel that they can come out with a victory, and I feel like this is a bounce back week for the Patriots. They've had the time to practice. They had a whole week. No excuses. You got pretty much your main guys out there. You can't say anything. You're at home, all of that. So my prediction for this game will be a very close 3-point type game. 27-24, Patriots win. Best Cynthia impression. That's what I think. So that's pretty much it as far as this game is concerned. Next game is another division game. Patriots are going to square off against the Bills. Can't wait for that matchup. That's going to be a tough one too. So, like, comment, subscribe. Watch out for any, future things that I drop. I'll drop, maybe another, top concerns list or whatever. I'm not going to do the same concern list that I did recently, but, I'll drop something similar to that. I always got different ideas that I want to do as far as like videos are concerned. It doesn't have to be just reviews and predictions. So just, keep your eye out on that. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Until next time, I'm out.